move further up the pitch, shall we? Because we've spoken endlessly about Moises Caicedo and Romeo Lavia, and we've all loved it. Together, Jodie, they are brilliant. Do you think Chelsea lack a little bit of creativity in the midfield when it is that partnership?
I'm not sure. I think it's pretty early days to maybe kind of judge it as a partnership as a whole throughout a season. I certainly liked the earlier signs of them two together. I feel that Lavia offers a bit of steeliness, but there's different ways of creating it, and he can carry the ball very well. A lot better than an Enzo can. Okay, so you may look at Enzo and think that he can maybe pick a pass, but there's different ways in which you can break down presses or you can open up teams. And sometimes Lavia carrying the ball, I remember at Liverpool it was, and he was going past 3 or 4 players, and you're like, that's another way of creating. Now, okay, he might not get the final pass, but that's a different way of breaking down opposition's defence. And I'm loving that partnership, particularly because we've missed Lavia for so long and his injuries. And then you're seeing, I think, the best of Caicedo now when them two play together.
Yeah. Matisse, I mean, it's a touchy subject because obviously Enzo Fernandez, Chelsea spent a lot of money on in January a couple of years ago. Still hasn't quite reached the levels that I think everyone thought he would, but he's got a really difficult task. I thought he played really well when he came on. Yeah. I thought he played really well. But he's got a really tough job trying to break into that midfield. How does he do it?
Yeah, I think it's tough because when he was playing in that midfield role previously, he was kind of being used as a box-to-box. He was getting into the same line as Palmer into the final third, and I think they want him on the edge of the area to play those final passes that we know he can play. But at the same time, the manager keeps calling for defensive stability, balance, and obviously Lavia and Caicedo bring that because they're more athletic, they can win their duels. And I think with Enzo, it's earlier in the season, those passes weren't really coming off. I don't think he was, weighting them the way that we'd expect. But also, I think when it comes down to Lavia and Caicedo, Chelsea defensively last season, they were so poor, and it's all about shoring that up. We have chance creation from Palmer, we have Madueke, we have Neto, we have so many attackers. Like, Chelsea have 3 different options in the 10 role. So I don't think it necessarily has to come from that deep. And I think for Enzo, with someone like Andre Santos at Strasbourg, which a lot of people are raving about at the moment, he's having a great season out there. He's got a bit of leadership to him, got a bit of goals to his game as well. I think it is going to be difficult for him to get back in that team because of the defensive side of the game.
OK, I've got a question for all 3 of you. What is Enzo Fernandez's best position? Matisse, go.
I think what we've seen in Conference League games where he has played deeper in that Regista, Jorginho role-esque, where he is spraying those long-range passes and he is able to play the ball through. But the defensive side, the foundation has to be there.
Jodie?
I'd have to probably say the same. I liked him when he was Argentina and he was the deeper midfielder. Yeah. But I think we can get a little bit too caught up in all that anyway, because if we're talking about midfielders, Caicedo's made a couple of defence-splitting passes already this season that are leading to big chances and goals. Yeah. I don't think we should downplay some of the other areas of the game that you can get your Lavias and Caicedos, and there'll be a time when Enzo's back in there. There'll be a time, and it'll be fine.
I think we might find... Look, we've got Leicester when we come back, right?
Could that be the perfect game to play Enzo Fernandez?
Maybe we'll start to see... How many games are we? 11?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe we'll see a different set, because Leicester will not be like Arsenal played. They will not be like that. I think structurally, when you're playing against the better teams, certainly away from home like we did against Liverpool, I think you need to be very concerned about defensively and making that stability. We might find that actually he might want to take Lavia out. Caicedo starts, right? We're in agreement with that one. Yeah, I think it's whoever plays with Caicedo. You might find there's a Leicester game. You might find that actually he decides to put Neto on the right, Mudryk on the left, because defensively we don't need to take... We can take a few more risks, maybe. But it wouldn't surprise me if there's going to be certain games where you see Enzo come into it. But the big games, I see Lavia and Caicedo. How
do you think Enzo Fernandez is going to take that, Jodie? Because obviously he himself feels like he should be in the side. And, like I said, I think he did put in a shift. I thought he was actually very good when he came on against Arsenal. But for someone like that that's, won a World Cup, won a Copa America with Argentina, feels like he should be playing. As a player, how do you deal with that?
Well, he's going to have to deal with it because ultimately you're at a football club that has got a lot of players, a very big squad, and at the moment, are you in the starting 11? It doesn't look like it. So your best way to deal with it is do what you've done at the weekend, come on and affect the game. The more and more that you do that, the more a manager's going to want to choose you and pick you for whether it's certain games or whether it's he's going to leave somebody out. That's the best way that you can answer any of the critics, any of the naysayers or whatever like that. You've got to know that you can come onto the pitch and make a difference. And if that means that you have to do that for 4 or 5 games coming off the bench, then so be it. That's what being at a big football club is.
Yeah. And those were difficult games. Like, it was Newcastle, it was Man United, it was Liverpool, Arsenal. I think Maresca said, I don't want to lose those important games. Like, if I have to get a draw and leave, I'll go. And maybe because it is his first season and he's just trying to steady the ship and make sure Chelsea be in the top 4, he doesn't want to take those risks that we're talking about. And he hasn't maybe stabilised the defence the way he wants to. If he can do that, then we might see Enzo in that position. But it is going to be a lot of competition. We spent a lot of money for Lavia. Lavia was 60 million. So, you know, they all cost a lot at the end of the day. It's going to be difficult.
And it's healthy. Competition races at a football club like Chelsea, you need that. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, the only time it becomes unhealthy is when someone's maybe not doing what they should be doing at the training ground or when they're coming on the pitch. But we can't say that about Enzo, who come on and affected the game well at the weekend.
Now, we're going to get onto the winger situation in a moment, but there is another player who's in a similar situation to Enzo Fernandez, and that's someone that we also spent a lot of money on. And that's, well, we spent a lot of money on everyone, yeah. That doesn't narrow it down in the slightest. But it's Christopher Nkunku. Now, Enzo Maresca openly said he was arguably our best player in pre-season, but he was obviously playing in that number 10, sort of second striker. Obviously, he is now quite clearly a backup to Nicholas Jackson. And there has been reports, you know, coming out that saying he's unhappy to sit on the bench, which is what he's doing. Is it a case similar to Enzo that there is going to come a time where we are going to need to swap out Nicholas Jackson, AFCON, for example, or like across the next couple of seasons, those, like, he will get his opportunities, but is it about now being patient and sort of...
Look, he had his chance at Newcastle away in the Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
He was disappointed. You know, so when those opportunities come, you've got to make sure you take them. All right, we've seen in the Conference League he scored goals. It was very noticeable that he didn't celebrate the goals that we scored.
Is that because that's embarrassing to celebrate with a balloon against
Yes,
Noah?
I think there's an element of that.
I don't think you can do that.
I absolutely feel there's an element of that. But they're different centre forwards. Jackson will stretch defences more than Nkunku. Nkunku he's more of that 10, 9. He's not a number 9 where he goes and stretches. So there are different... I felt when we made the substitutions, it was against Liverpool, I felt when Nkunku come on, I felt he should have gone down the middle and Jackson on the left. But he put Nkunku out on the left and Jackson down the middle. Jackson plays out there. Pre-season, two seasons ago, that's where he operated, off that left. And the pair of them linked up really well. So I think Nkunku, he must be incredibly frustrated. But right now, I can't make a case for him being in the team. Unless he plays that 10 in behind Jackson, that might, but then where do you play Palmer? You know, there's no natural, I can't naturally put him in right now. It might take an injury, it might take a suspension, where he goes down the middle and he links up with Palmer. But he wants that same kind of space, really. So.
Well, Nicholas Jackson is on 4 yellow cards in the Premier League.
He always is.
He always is.
And 4 yellow cards.
And a ban is coming, because no doubt he'll pick probably one up against Leicester. That always happens.
But you know, he was sat on and he didn't get that. It's like he can control his...
He
can do it.
He gets to the line and then goes, actually, I'm going to then stop.
Diego Costa, I don't think he ever got sent off in a Premier League game for Chelsea, but he was always
towing the line. Borderline.
Nkunku was signed before Maresca came in, so this is where I go back to kind of the squad being assembled at times before a manager gets in, and we signed Felix over the summer. We have Carney Chukwuemeka still in the squad. Chelsea have about 4 10s. I've always felt like Nkunku is a 10. I've always felt like he's a connector. When he's playing at Leipzig, he was in a front too, but he was always the one dropping off. And like you said, when he's playing up front, in those games that he's been given, I think he's been quite isolated, he's been quite uninvolved. You know, it's almost like the game's been passing him by. And I think for him, Chelsea, when you look at that 9 role for Maresca, there's a lot of work that has to be done from Jackson. He is dropping and hold up the ball. The centre-backs are on him. He's pressing from the front. He's running the channels. He's doing so much that I don't think, even physically, I don't think Nkunku can do because he's had the injury history. So I think there's a lot of factors that come into it. But Chelsea, at the end of the day, in the summer, wanted to sign a striker. They were looking at Osimhen. They were looking at Samuel, who's gone to Porto. They were looking at strikers, and they've ended up not getting one. Gu's obviously not ready, and Nkunku's just being used as a 9, but he's not really a 9. So...
But he's third choice, Jody, as a 10, in his favoured position, because it looks clear it's Cole Palmer, it's Joao Felix, and then it's Christopher Nkunku.
Yeah, and there's also an element, I think Nkunku could play off the left, but you can only play off the left if you're going to then have a left-back that's going to get on the outside and get round you lot. And there's so many little things that obviously has a knock-on effect, but you have to say at the moment, the forward options that we have and the problems that we are causing teams, there's not a lot that people can say with. We are disrupting teams physically. We're using our technical ability. We're passing the ball through. I think we're a problem for anybody going forward, and Nicholas Jackson is a big part of that.